Welcome to the Südtirol Sellaronda Hero. It is perhaps the most beautiful theatre to do battle if you're a mountain biker. It's also the venue for the World Championships, for goodness sake. Time to go riding. If you're a mountain biker, it doesn't get any better than this. Welcome to Selva Val Gardena in the Dolomites in Italy. This is the Marathon World Championship. Mountain biking, that is. Of course, there are UCI rainbow stripes up for grabs. And what an amazing backdrop we have here. The Sellaronda. It has drawn bikers for so many years now. In fact, it only started in 2010 with 400 participants. Guess how many have signed on for hell this time by? Over 4,000 is the answer. We do have an elite group, of course. The women and the men are battling for the championship title. World Championship stripes, as we mentioned, up for grabs. And there is an elite grid. 50 women and 100 men will be starting off. It's 60 kilometres for the ladies' race here. It's an elevation gain of 3,400 metres. Quite a bit of climbing. And this is the course that they will take. Almost immediately out of the box, they head up to Dentecepies. Then it is a downhill run into a beautiful valley, just descending down to Curvara. Then they climb once again to Praloggia. And then it is the Campo Longo. Long that sinuous rises and falls, if you like, before dipping down into Araba. Then up to the Pordoi, one of the major tests on this race, especially coming so late. That'll be around the 42 kilometre mark that peaks out. Descending then over 4Ks very, very quickly indeed before they pick up towards the Passo Sella. Well, the map just a little bit behind us right now. That is the Campo Longo that we're telling you about, the descent down to Arabia. Then by the time they reach Selva Val Gardena once again, they will have covered 60 kilometres in total. The last descent, incidentally, is through the woodland area. It's a shaded part of the locale and can quite often hold moisture and indeed hold a few traps as well for those along the way. This is the mighty climb up to the Pordoi just being shown to you on your graphics right now, and then this lovely valley descent with a few hairpin switchbacks as well. High speed, good mix as well. Shingle trail for about 35% of it. Pure off-road for 55%, so over half of it pure off-road, and just 8%, 8.8% indeed, is an on-road. There's the pickup that we were telling you about a few moments ago up to the Passo Sella. That's the glorious limestone outcrop that you see. Takes millions of years to produce, and the women will probably finish this race, the best of them anyway, in under 3 hours 45, and we have some amazing riders here as well. There's the run down through the woodland that we were telling you about, where they finally finish after 60 Ks. We have Gunnarita Dala here. We have Sally Bingham, who of course won this race 2 years ago for Great Britain. There she is, her for Topek Ergon Racing. Sabine Spitz, also here of Germany, took gold in Beijing. In fact, Olympic champions, plenty of them. Gold in Athens was Dala, the Norwegian, and 8 times a world champion. She does not come here looking for anything other than glory. Ariane Kleinens of Switzerland, also very much in the frame, and Austria never to be denied. Christina Coleman, one of those. Swiss champion as well, Esther Sus, and Daniela Veronese as well, the Italian champion. So it is about elites. It's also about those taking part, as we've said, over 4,000 riders. And of course, the world's best will lead off, and straight away it's into near attacking action. You've got to kind of bide your time, though. You want to get a decent amount of drive just to get yourself a bit of space. There are some of the other contestants as the 50 ladies get underway. But what a selection of the world's very best we have here for you. Heading out of town, they'll suddenly pick it up. They'll be climbing. Well, they're already climbing, as you can see, at the top of the high street here. It suddenly disappears. Dentecepies beckons. And already a proper drag, as you can see. In fact, from in the first 6K, they will climb about where are we? About 700 meters for the first climb up to Dente-Chepies. No easy task at all. And in fact, it's about bragging rights, I guess, very early on, and then how you settle yourself into the rhythm. And it's hard to find it, to be honest. Maybe on the climb, it's too easy just to grab at it, and here is that test right now, partially wooded, as you can see, plenty of switchbacks along the way, but by the time they hit the 5 kilometre mark and did Chepies, they will know all about it. We've got checkpoints along the way, as you can see, being marked out. The UCI, naturally, it's their event essentially, which has been lent, or let's say the hero has lent itself to the UCI. Long ridges as well along the way here. There's that 20k marker that we were telling you about down to Campolongo. Beautiful vistas can be had once you get to the top here. You just take a look over to the Sella on the right hand side, skirting around it. It's essentially a loop around that great massive outcrop, if you like, down into Araba. So back down to about 1650 meters, and then just gentle climbs, rises and falls to the 30 kilometer marker. Destination Araba. It's all downhill. Well, I say it's all downhill. It sort of rolls with the punches, if you like, and then they start climbing, and then it gets very, very severe, as you can see. All of a sudden, from the 35k mark along that testy ridge to the Passo Pordoi. Once they get up to the top of that, then we're downhill once again. But it's a long, very fast, sinuous route, as you can see. It picks its way around the back end of the Sella, and of course the Sella does beckon. This is where it gets particularly testy as you go up to the Passo Sella itself. Once you get to the top of that, then it is rather a quick descent, but the legs are getting extremely tired, and by the time they reach this point where there's a little bit of assistance should there be any kind of problem, and you don't want it late on. Punctures, of course, always looming their ugly head. Down to the 55 marker, not home yet, as you can see, and a couple of kicks, in fact, a really cruel one at 57 kilometres into the race. 60, just over that, is the full distance. And as they come into town, they must feel like all their Christmases had come at once. Back through the tree line, and then towards the end of the run. The men have an extended race, incidentally. It's 87 kilometres for the men, seeing the full course for them as we stand right now. Passo Durand is to be taken on late on, so an extra bit of cruelty for the men, and in fact their altitude gain will be 4,700 metres of climbing in total, and then back down and into town. This is that tree line that the women will rejoin this course, and that's that fast section through the trees when you get back, and we finally have our winners. Wow. Well, it's a rather startlingly beautiful part of the world. Jenny Schutz-Kentala has been the managing director of this race for quite some time. And in fact, it's down to her efforts that this amazing race has been pulled together again and again. The men starting off a slightly different course, but slightly disjointed. And what great athletes we have here as well. We have, sadly, not, though, the defending champion from the Czech Republic, Jaroslav Kulhavý, but nonetheless, as the men get themselves underway, it's a pacey start. Pro team Vina Joliwer also here. Torpedo Factory team likewise. The Belgian Tony Pauluysen hoping for something. Twice a world champion. He can expect it as well. 3 times winner of the Hero. Leonardo Pace of Colombia, leading the World Series, is also on board, wearing bib number 2. You might well be able to pick him out up towards the front of this selection. Don't forget, 100 of the men's elite will go off ahead of the pack, which is made up of club riders, enthusiasts, and everyone who decided to pay their subscription, essentially. So out of town, same route on the exit, at least for the men, as it was for the women. In fact, they trace the same course for much of the race, but then it really separates after Araba, the men looping out and taking the Sarasas peak along the way, and then rejoining very briefly before they head off to Campitello. Passo Durand as well, one of the major tests on the day. Well, no doubt about it, going out early is one thing, but grabbing at the nettle is perhaps not a wise idea. And in fact, if you want to instill yourself or make an impression upon the race, then it's best to keep something in reserve and factor in the effort, I guess you might say, a little bit later on. Howard Grotz of the United States is not a man who likes to be anywhere near the rear, and in fact he's just nosing towards the front and pushing on just a little bit. You can see that the alpine peaks here do cast long shadows, and as a result it can often cause almost temperature shock as you're coming through some of the passes here. You'll come out of a shaded area and into sunshine, and you really do feel it. And likewise, alternatively, going the opposite direction and into, of course, the cooler areas and the wetter areas which are in the shade. This is what we're dealing with. There are the passes that the men's will take on. Canetse Pass D along the way there. There will be various checkpoints along the way. Dante-Chepris is one of those, and already, as you can see, it's worth just stretching your legs. That's Mars Beckers of Belgium, who just decides to kick off a little bit and try and show the Belgian stripes to everybody else. It's take it easy time just for now then. There's been a few that have just offered themselves up, if you like, to the course. But essentially, once they take the turn, once the Argo Cat, the 4-track, goes out of its holding position, and there's enough space out there for everybody to be released, they will be, and then they'll head up towards the Dante-Chepris. Well, this race has been going since 2010. As we mentioned earlier, 400 signed on for duty then. But, well, just 5 years later, just over 4,000, in fact, 4,015 taking part. 50 countries represented. The two routes, 60 kilometres for the women and 87 for the men. But nonetheless, there is no differential to winning a World Championship jersey, and that's what this is all about. So they lead themselves into town past the little sports centre where we'll have the party at the end of all this. And you see as well the gondolas that can take mountain bikers up. There is a descending event here. There's also a kids competition. In fact, it is 9 days of sheer mountain biking festival that has been organised by the managing director, Jenny Schutz-Kentala, who's done an amazing job. Huber Paul-Huber is also here, the Italian head coach, and of course former ex-CO world champion back in 1997. He knows his stuff. He knows a good course when he sees it, and so do we. And you can see the compression almost immediately as they get onto the dirt, which is where you want to function at your best as a mountain biker. It's almost cruel, the kick up and out of town. You've got that very, very testy 700 meters ascent in only 6 kilometers, and you can see already some climbing off, getting themselves into trouble. In fact, some of those already in a little bit of bother out there, and that was Samuel Porro, I've got to tell you, just dismounted. Not great start for him then from the Sarmax Cannondale racing team. Back on board though, and as we look further down through the field here, you can see that they are essentially just settling themselves down and into the rhythm, and that's a good thing. It's a long game, this, a very long game, and in fact the men are going to finish in about 4.5 hours time. It's almost rude, I guess you might say. So both races, men and women, already underway here at the Hero. Well, it's been an amazing day for this lady. Out front, Norway will out. And to be honest, gold in Athens and 8 times a world champion is one thing. Evenly split between cross-country and, of course, descent. This is amazing. Gunnar Rita Dala has an advantage here of 96 seconds, a minute and 36, over Annika Langeveld, the defending champion and indeed world champion. Don't forget, defending world champion from Denmark. This is fantastic from the veteran. She's picked up 18 medals in her career, has Gunnar Rita Dala, but none will be more important on this day, at least, than this one to her. She went out of it like the clappers up the Dante-Chepris. She led over the top there after 35 minutes in the saddle, and in fact it was honours even, I guess you might say, for the podium. And in fact, she has just driven on and extended a lead as almost a constant. She led at the first checkpoint out of 35 minutes of riding by a margin of 32 seconds. She extended that to well over a minute and a half by the time she got through Campolongo, and then we headed for the Pordoi. Well, still, she just continued to set her pace absolutely beautifully through all the different kinds of terrain. And by the time we've reached the cut here and coming through this this section, she's just passed over the Sella. So She's about probably, I reckon, about 6 minutes from home at the moment. But the last checkpoint at 3 hours, 14 minutes and 23 seconds, she came through there a minute clear and more of her nearest rival, Annika Langveld. So this is about Dahla, and it's about, I guess, the Scandinavians who seem to be best placed when it comes to this kind of experience, and quite an experience it is. When you come to the Südtirol and you experience the Sellaronda for the first time, as I did last year, it's absolutely breathtaking, quite frankly. There is nothing quite like it at all, and Gunnar-Rita Dahla knows exactly that. She knows what a big deal this is as well. And when you put people like the gold medalist from Beijing, from Germany, Sabine Spitz, behind you, and indeed by an enormous margin, then you know that you are a class apart. And that's what she's showing to us right now. Just driving into this forest section. Luckily, we've had some dry weather conditions over the week that's preceded this great event. It is, of course, the Blue Ribbon. There'll be more of the competitions that extend just beyond this. And in fact, one heck of a party, of course, as well in Selva Val Gardena. 3 levels to Val Gardena. Selva, to my mind anyway, is the nicest of them all, mainly because of this event, the hero. And we do have heroes, both men and women, that are thrown up by this sort of racing, and we've got it right now. A 9-day festival then, essentially about to draw to a close for the world's great, and they are out here and doing well. Winner of the hero 2 years ago, Sally Bingham, is not having the best of runs. She did make amends after a slow start up down to Chapris. I guess she kept something in the bag early on. Just looking at this elevation gain for the ladies, 3,400 meters, and so you do need to keep something back. She made great progress, did Sally Bingham, though, for top peak Aragon racing, and in fact she was up to 6th place by a couple longo, and then after 2 hours and 45 minutes she'd managed to get into 5th, and that's the position she's holding at the moment. But it's close out there, close indeed, and she's being tested by Jana Belamonia of the Ukraine, and Switzerland, the Swiss rider and superstar Esther Sus. Right now, though, it's about this lady, and Gunnar-Rita Dahla is on her way home, essentially. She's dealt with most of the course. In fact, even that last peak, after the Sella, the last of the tests, you can see that little nasty kick-up, which comes as something of a surprise. Have to grind into that through open area, like a little escarpment, if you like, and then you come into the trees. But she must be cheering to herself, and now listening to everything on the bike, just wanting nothing to go wrong technically, essentially. She takes this lazy right-hander as she comes back through this sort of limestone, loose-topped surface, and thankfully, nice and pounded in, so a good solid surface for her to deal with. Finish time, well, I suspect she's probably about 2 minutes from home right now, but this will feel like, I guess in many ways, the longest day and perhaps even the shortest of her career so far. Glorious that the World Championship has found this amazing venue to show exactly the talents, showcase the talents of these amazing athletes, and that's what we've got right now. So Gunnar-Rita Dahla is coming into town. She it's an unkind one, I guess, just beyond the electric fencing here that keeps some of the beasts at bay. Well, you can't keep a good woman down, and this is a very, very good athlete. Born in 1973, the Norwegian, and it's been a constant career. It's almost like she was born for mountain biking, and into the last kilometre she comes. Gunnar-Rita Dahla, well, to my mind, the advantage is over 1 minute and 20 seconds as she heads for the line and championship glory. Shoulders hunched in that aggressive style that we're so used to, finding an aero effect even now, almost instinctively knowing how to ride this bike. Keeping it smooth is what it's all about, but the power was delivered right from the very beginning. On to up Denta Sepace, and then Campagnolo, then through the Pordoi, and now the Sella. Off that and into town, back here to this beautiful Selva Val Gardena, through the last little darkened section, and the crowd are waiting for her. They will rise almost as one when they catch sight. They are talking her up a storm, I can tell you, at the podium, where they are waiting to have a chat with our champion in waiting. And what a performance it has been, as a I guess you can say almost as expected it was to be a Nordic battle. But the Norwegian Gunnar-Rita Dahla and Denmark's Annika Langeveld, who will be coming in fairly shortly, the reigning champion, They have provided royal entertainment for us in this fantastic backdrop. A battle going in favour of the more experienced of the two athletes, and at 42 years of age, Gunnar-Rita Dahler doesn't like to be reminded of that number, but the numbers do stack up when it comes to greatness, and she has delivered. Little turn here, little shimmy as she comes into town. You can already hear the stadium announcer waiting to call her in here. Well, her latest victory, 10th world title as an elite rider, and well, it's a record, let me tell you. So we have well, provided nothing goes wrong in these last 100 meters or so, we have a new bar being set, I guess you might say. An unkind grind, but she can hear the crowd, she can hear the emotion, and she is trying to lock everything out at the moment. She needs to just bring this one home, and she's going to. Well, she just zips up her jersey. Clock's gone out. Question marks as to the full time, but it's all about the time gap by the time we get to the end. One thing is certain as well, the average speed is going to be well above 16.5 kilometers an hour, and on the sort of climbing that we've had during this test, that underscores the greatness of the riders out here, and particularly this lady. Gunnar-Rita Dahler takes the turn into town. The crowd is waiting. It's a big day for Norway. It's a massive day for her. She knows what she's done. She takes the flag and she said, this mountain now belongs to me. And you know what? She's absolutely right. Fantastic performance. 3 hours 34:13. She delivered. She came. She saw. She conquered. We have a world champion. She's allowing her emotions to come to the fore. What a fantastic performance that was. She'll wear the rainbow stripes next year, and she'll wear them with pride. Coach Arrivis, and so does everybody else. Well, we'll try and grab a word with her as soon as we possibly can, but this is a special moment for her and everybody that surrounds her, or indeed who loves mountain biking, and where better than right here. Well, an extraordinary win. Anneke Langvaart is coming in right now, the defending champion, but the big prize has already gone. It's podium places only now up for grabs. Sabine Spitz looking good. Sally Bingham looks like it's going to be 5th place for her, although she's in a battle at the moment with Arijn Kleinens. That's going to be close. The Swiss looking good, but here's our winner, and indeed our world champion.
From your first world title, you're back. Your victory, number 6 in the World Championship. So, what about your sensations so far?
I don't know what to say really. I felt good the whole way. I had a tactic to just go in the front if I felt good up the first climb, and I kept steady. It's so easy to overpace yourself when you are in altitude, so I tried really to do my own pace, and I knew that I can get time in the descending because I know the descending very well after being here the last week. So I wasn't sure. Anneke was catching back on me in the steep climbs, but I knew if I could be the first one on the last top, it was possible. So it's just really unbelievable. Unglaublich.
Thank you so much.
Unglaublich indeed. Well, still out and on course. This is Anneke Langvaart heading for 2nd place, and at 31 years of age, easily the youngest on what looks likely to be the podium, made up by Sabine Spitz of Germany, the gold medalist from Beijing. Some great athletes, a great event. We'll have the men in a few moments' time.
The best motorsport talents on their way to Formula One. Big fights, spectacular racing. Over 30 drivers with only one goal, to secure the title and to lay the foundation for a bright future. FIA Formula 3 European Championships, broadcast next Tuesday on EuroSport and Wednesday on EuroSport2.
With the EuroSport app, get live coverage of all your favorite sports. Check on the fortunes of your favorite teams and players. Follow the matches and events live. Download now. EuroSport, the benchmark in sports apps.
Dikkat et oğlum.
Pass auf. Pass op, pass op, pass op.
Attention, Spatima.
Nee.
Kalm, kalm, kalm.
Kijk, zo doe maar. Precies.
Kom op.
EuroSport Live Score is available on the iPhone and iPad for free. Every competition, every result, live comments. EuroSport Live Score, available on the App Store.
Well, we have our women's world champion. The men, though, almost cruelly still out on course, but one man is in dominant force to be reckoned with. Alban Lacata of Austria. Now, he punctured last year, you may remember, but world champion back in 2010. But right now, he is having his fun. Early on, the early leader was Howard Grotz of the United States. In fact, he led up to the first climb, the first checkpoint after Denta Chepis. And then we started rolling again, and it was Alban Lacata that picked it up. In fact, it's closer than you might think out there for a number of battles. And in fact, the podium is still not decided by any means. Albeit for Alban Lacata, he's away. The man wearing number 8 from Austria is in fine form. He took the lead at Tabla, and from then on, he has actually held it through Campolongo, through the Port d'Oie. And in fact, after 3 3/4 hours of racing, last chime check through Duron, he's looking extraordinarily strong out there. So one of the big descents that he's on right now, as you can see. And still a lot of racing, though, still to be had. By my reckoning, he's got about 45 minutes before he will actually reach the end of the course. Plenty of elevations along the way. Elevation gain 4,700 metres over 87 kilometres of riding. At least he's putting something back into his legs right now, as you saw on the descent. As we also heard from Gunnar Rita Dahler, being good at descending is a vital part of the proceedings here. Just looking at this battle for the other podium places, this is Perkis Ilyas we're looking at right now, the chasing group. And he, former world champion, of course, the man from Greece, a troubled country at the moment economically, but he's bringing some joy to them, I've got to tell you. Also, Leonardo Pates, he's the Colombian, leader of the World Series as well, and 3 times a winner of the Hero Pace. I guess all of them believing that they've got something of a chance, because Czech Republic's Jaroslav Kulavi sadly decided to pull out of the event very, very late on. He's going to be at the start of the Olympic cross-country round in the UCI Mountain Bike World Cup. That will be in Switzerland, in Lenzerheide, but nonetheless, in his absence, there are plenty to enjoy here, plenty to enjoy. Christoph Sauser is one of those. The Swiss is chasing this man, Alban Lacata. Sauser, twice a world champion, took a bronze in Sydney, of course, as well. And he's always a feisty competitor for the Drain Bianchi team. Pro team Vanna Joliware is here as well, with Damiano Ferreira of Italy. But he's just been divorced ever so slightly from this group, probably hoping for a top 5 finish if he is lucky. In fact, the top 6 still very much involved. Markus Kaufmann of Germany is also going very well. Just looking at our Greek friend here, he was 3rd fastest over Denta Chepis at almost exactly the half-hour mark, giving away a couple of minutes to this man who went very, very early. Going early is one thing, but you have to have the power and indeed the rhythm to back it up, and that seems exactly what he's got. Almost a class apart from Alban Lacata. He punctured, as we said, last time by, but well, let's just hope it doesn't happen this time. Topic Ergon Racing is his team, and he went through Tabla with an advantage which was already starting to look almost rude. He was 40 minutes clear by that point, and he's just decided to kick on. 41 seconds, I beg your pardon. Do forgive me. 43 seconds clear at that point. So he has already extended his gap from a handful of seconds to something major. And right now, he is in the very, very happy place of leading this event by a handsome margin of around about 2 minutes. And it looks like he may well be able to sustain that. Why do we say that? Well, shortcutting the course is allowed in mountain biking, provided the body of it is there. Pace, Leon, Sousa and Ilias very, very close together. And it's Ilias that's trying to catch up at the moment, which is why he's shortcutting on occasion. The motorcycle doing a great job of relaying the pictures via our helicopter back to base right now, so you can enjoy this. And you can see just how unstable the surface can get on some of the descents. We just remind you that this is on road for 13.3 kilometres, and this is counted as road right now. Single trail and pure off-road. Single trail about 16-17%, off-road for just shy of 70% of the full run of 87 kilometres. And so it's a question, I guess, when you're on your own, of just setting your rhythm, just finding a cadence that you are happy with, delivering enough power to distance your foes who are chasing you down, and indeed hold that tempo for a goodly long period. Behind you, madam, they're coming through. You might want to film that instead of a helicopter. And they do. Well, I guess a little bit of chit-chat is all part of the game. Maybe it's a bit of psyching out as well that goes on out there. But just injecting a little bit of power is Leonardo Pace right now. In fact, that is Alban, who's just been caught up by a club rider, I must say, you might say, but it's actually a mobile camera, so forgive us for that. The mobile camera just on the helmet of that mountain biker. We've got a few of them dotted around the place. Don't feel that the cameraman might win the rainbow jerseys. That's not going to happen. But what might happen is that this man, Parkis Ilias, could get back in. Leonardo Pace is ahead of him, along with Christoph Sousa, but ahead of everybody, I'm afraid, is Alban Lacata. Well, I guess barring ill fortune, this looks extremely good for him at the moment. Rather cruelly, the men do have to face an extended loop compared to the women, but they take everything on, especially if you're good at this sort of thing. This is that wide open space that has just been crested by Alban Lacata as he continues just to drive on right now. Well, Lacata is a man who's used to taking on this sort of thing. It was a fascinating battle for second place, though, that is going on between Sousa and Pace. Christoph Sousa, incidentally, it's his final appearance as a professional athlete. So for many, I guess many of the neutrals, you're probably hoping that he could come back and catch this man. But, well, barring errors, it looks like Alban Lacata is going to take this for Austria. And it'll be a great result as well for his Topic Ergon racing team, who've been so great at supporting him for such a long time. Just looking further back down the order here, Lacata came out of the blocks earlier on and was really determined to impose himself on the race very early on. Well, he set a rhythm, or was able to set one which was much higher cadence than these guys. And if you're wondering what the little wipe was for, he's just cleaning up the bottle as well as everything else. Gets handed a little bit of food through the station. That's Paes, and they're struggling to keep up. That's Christoph Sousa. Sousa himself, a double world champion. Took that bronze in Sydney that we mentioned earlier on, but Pace knows the hero very well. He's 3 times a winner, and local knowledge, and especially the conditions, can count for a great deal. That is Pariklis Ilias in no man's land at the moment, almost temptingly close, is he not? And in fact, he's got to watch out, because Damiano Ferro of Italy is starting to close. Ilias is a former world champion, so he knows about imposing himself when he needs to, and he needs to wake up to the danger right now. Markus Kaufmann as well of TB Neuffen, the German, is also on his case as we speak. Drama here.
With the EuroSport app, get live coverage of all your favorite sports. Check on the fortunes of your favorite teams and players. Follow the matches and events live. Download now. EuroSport, the benchmark in sports apps.
Dikkat et oğlum.
Pass auf. Pass op, pass op, pass op.
Attentie in spate, man.
Nee.
Kom, kalm. Kalm.
Schiet, shoot, doe maar. Precies.
Wat?
EuroSport Live Score is available on the iPhone and iPad for free. Every competition, every result, live comments. EuroSport Live Score, available on the App Store.
Welcome back to the Südtirol Sellaronda Hero, but more importantly, this year, anyway, it's the Mountain Bike World Championship. We've got a couple of chasers, and in fact, we've got mountain bikers all over the mountain here, and you'd expect that with over 4,000 participants. Well, there always has to be a winner, and this man right now, Alban Lecata, looks like he's heading for exactly that. Through the little gate, not designed to slow them down. But he's just stretching out his hams right now, as you can see, and there's a little battle raging on between Christoph Sauser and Leonardo Pace. There's a couple of riders as well who are locked together in a battle for a top 5 position. Periklis Ilias, Damiano Ferro and Marcus Kaufmann are at war out there. There's a couple of lone riders as well. Samuel Perro of Italy and Tony Paulaisen, along with Lucas Buchli as well of Switzerland, Buchli, I beg your pardon. They are, if you like, rolling, not quietly, but certainly just pacing themselves at the moment independently. This looks like a good move by Pace, who's just kicked off away from Sauser late on. What Sauser got, where's unlucky number 13 under UCI rules? You're allowed to wear that number upside down on occasion. Well, he's gone with it. Maybe it'll bring him something, but he's got a big battle to get back to his man here, and he does. He's bridged over as they exited from the trees. Super effort by Sauser. So he's alongside the Colombian Leonardo Pace. Now, we mentioned earlier that Pace has won the Hero on 3 separate occasions, so he knows how to ride almost every element of this distance. That's a camera biker just holding station behind the number 8 of Alban Lecata, as you can see, bringing you those pictures. This one is from our little quad, and not quite as stable as the bike-mounted or the bicycle-mounted cameraman as well. Well, the walkers have come along to enjoy the sights of the world champions in waiting coming by, but it looks like these guys have been bitten ever so slightly. By my reckoning, you've got about 16 minutes left of riding, which suggests that he's still got quite a little bit of terrain to take on right now, but the pace is up on the descent. There is a little reverse kick that happens about 2 or 3 kilometers from the line, so he's still got some climbing to do, but it's the descending abilities of Alban Lecata. Likewise, same was credited by Gunnar-Rita Dahler. She says she can always make up ground by her sheer bravery. I guess balance with experience as well counts for an awful lot on loose surfaces. So what about the battle for a top 10 place that's raging on? Christian Heineck of the Czech Republic is out there. Likewise, Jochen Kass and Danny Geismeier of Austria and Germany, respectively. Karl Platt in the frame. In fact, he's just been divorced ever so slightly from it, but the American Howard Grotz, who went out so very early, in fact took the first checkpoint of the Genta Sepris early on. He and the Alpen Trophy winner, the Italian Tony Longo of Drain Bianchi, is up in the frame as well. Jochen Kass and Gassmeyer we mentioned. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders bidding for a top 10 place. So that's a battle within itself. Right now, you're looking at the runners-up spot, which is up for grabs, because 2 minutes clear of them is a supreme athlete in Alban Lecata, who's having his fun, quite frankly. He's still got probably about 12, 15 minutes of riding left to produce right now, but it is a marathon event, as you can see, and so there is, thankfully, at least for the athletes, some areas of respite, of which he's on one right now, but not holding back in terms of pace one little bit. In fact, I think we've got a motor pacer that's just behind him right now. Well, it's supremely organized, supremely well organized, this event. The race director, incidentally, is Peter Rung-Galdier, the former ski champion, and there's a lot of goodwill in this part of the world. People who live and work here feel extraordinarily lucky that they are blessed not only with great winter skiing. We've had the World Championships here, of course, cross-country skiing as well. But when the snow does finally melt, it opens up to mountain bikers. And there are very few areas that could better this on the planet. In fact, I can't think of one. Selva Val Gardena is an absolute joy. If you're a mountain biker, then get yourself over here, for goodness sake. Pay the lift man to send you up in a gondola. And if descending is your thing, then you can kind of cheat. If you do it properly, you can you can go and just pound the roads and the paths which are open to you. And it's nice to be welcomed, quite frankly. There are some parts of the world which are which have this kind of status, and we remind you it's a UNESCO area of outstanding natural beauty, this. But you are, as a mountain biker, completely welcomed. The food's great, the hotels are fantastic, and of course you get an extraordinarily friendly welcome. They know that tourism is their lifeblood. They're not going to build any factories to make stuff in this part of the world. Except out of wood or rock, I guess. And it is the woods and the rocks that are our playground, and that's what makes it an absolute delight. It's a stunning backdrop, and you should come and enjoy it, and the Südtirol will more than welcome you. We've welcomed, in fact, the Mountain Bike World Championship. We already have our ladies champion, and we're about to find our male champion, and I believe that you're looking at him right now. This is that grind. He's got to just forget about the lactic acid build-up. He's a fantastic athlete. Been around since 1979, of course, Alban Lakhdar, and he knows this event as well. He's had his heart broken here, but back in 2010 he was a world champion, and I wonder whether he's going to repeat the feat right now. He must have his heart in his mouth in more ways than one. This is that kick that we were telling you about. The cruelty of it is something that beggars belief. When they set this course out a few years ago, there were some question marks as to whether it would be too tough and would be something that I guess mountain bikers would shy away from. They had 400 participants in the 2010 event, and year on year the directorship, the managing directorship of Jenny, has done a great job. She is Jenny Schutzkenthaler, and she has produced an event that has constantly just evolved and drawn in more and more. In fact, it's of course garnered the attention of the UCI, and that's why we are here with this amazing World Championship event. Well, the riders sometimes have more pace than powered machines because they are lighter, able to skittle over the surface, as you can see, and the potholes that naturally throw up just as nature takes its course through the frosts and the rains in this part of the world generally catch out the motorized vehicles more than they do the bicycles. Well, the mountain bikers have got this arena. They're determined to enjoy it, and the crowds have turned out in force. It was an amazing welcome for Gunnar Rita Dahler. Annika Langvad, by the way, runner-up for Denmark. We'll just give you some of the women's results as one of these lovely little sinuous paths down to the wooden-made footbridge, which you'll cross, just rattling the boards on that and then just engaging the power as he still factoring in what few reserves he's got left. And the camera biker doing a superb job. Wish I had a name on him. I'd certainly give him some credit out there. Sabine Spitz finishing third for Germany. So Norway, Denmark and Germany rounding out the podium. Switzerland's Ariane Clemens finishing in front of Sally Bingham, who has took the hero back in 2013. Swiss ace Esther Saus finishing behind Jana Balamonia of the Ukraine. And Christina Coleman of Austria for Phil Pro Former Racing, finishing in 8th place ahead of Lee Davidson and Daniela Veronese, the Italian champion for Topado Surfing Shop. There was no doubt about it. There was just one leader at every single checkpoint as far as the ladies was concerned, and that was Gunnar Rita Dahler. She wanted to take the first peak and then just extend her lead on all of the descents. Alban Lakhdar did not lead right at the very beginning, but he leads now. And as he picks off some of the amateurs left over from the women's race, and indeed some of those who find themselves on course, his distance to Christoph Sauso, you just saw there at the moment, just on the back wheel of Leonardo Pace. Now, Pace, as an experienced man, he leads the World Series, but he's got to be very, very careful at the moment because Christoph Sauso has taken a long old turn behind him. World Championship Marathon, 7 in 2006 and 3rd in 2013. It looks like it's going to be a podium for him again, as opposed to World Champions jersey. But Leonardo Pace has been... I wonder if Christoph Sauser is actually just engaging a bit of kidology. It's hard, to be honest, to read riders this deep into an event because they don't want to show too much, and sometimes... There we are, he's got a real poker face. Hard to read. You look back and you don't know how close to his limit he actually is. One thing I love about cycling in general, but mountain biking as well as road racing, is that it's a game where you will, if you're going to have any kidology, you are feigning that you're okay. Other sports, notably soccer, you feign injury. Not in this game. You feign that you're absolutely okay. That's the way you psych out your opponents and then impose yourself when you need to be. It's almost a heartbreaker. I've seen riders on occasion just take a swig from an empty bidon just to deliver the message that they are in control and they've got plenty of water left, knowing perhaps that the fluids are lacking from their opponent. It's a great trick, keep it in mind, but right now this man has got all the tricks. He's riding like a magician, and as we stand, he's, by my reckoning, about 6 minutes from home right now, maybe a little bit less than that, picking up, as you can see, some of the back markers, some of the remnants of the women's event that went a little bit earlier on. No shame in that, that to be overtaken by the men as they come through. And in fact, some of the times for the ladies, of course, way down the order. That was the Swiss, in fact, Barbara Liardet heading home as well. She's going to finish in way down the order, probably out towards the 40s, I imagine. But nonetheless, the elite men, despite the longer course of 87 kilometres as opposed to 60, really are the elite. And it is an inclusive event, let's just underscore as well. And with over 4,000 competitors, and it's no surprise to catch a few stragglers along the way. Albeit, I have to say that Barbara Liardet, one of the elite riders, which just kind of underscores what Alban Lacata is delivering here. Well, he's going to deliver a victory, that's for sure. He's on this run for home. You can look further down the valley and see Selva Val Gardena. It looms large, almost out of the mist at the moment, and a few more of those along the way that are just being caught from the ladies' event. As we said, no shame in that at all. I believe that was Jana Zaitschank of Germany that was just caught up with on road there. 4 hours 21 and 16 seconds as the clock continues to count. He might well come in underneath the 4 hours and 25 marker, which would be absolutely remarkable. His average speed throughout this run has been hovering about 19.8, 19.9 kilometers per hour, which is absolutely remarkable. Fastest pace for the ladies, it was 16.8 kilometers per hour for Gunnar Rita Dahler. The men generally tend to get a bit more pace coming through some of the downhill sections and of course stronger up the climbs, but it's been an amazing competition, both the women's, where we've had a fabulous champion crowned today. The queen is Gunnar Rita Dahler, so who will be the king? You're looking at him right now. Toprak Aragon Racing must be absolutely delighted to see the progress of this man. He's had his disappointments, as we mentioned before, in the past, but right now this is all about glory. Newly laid piece of tarmac, thankfully dry, and we've been blessed with dry weather here. The suspicion that some of the clouds might burst, and oh, we've got an attack. This is terrific stuff. Leonard Pace has been attacked at the moment, and it's Christoph Sauser that wants to put some distance between himself and the Colombian. He did have something left. That's one of the lady competitors just out ahead of him right now, and he's perhaps used some of these back markers as a bit of a foil, and I'm afraid that Leonard Pace has been bitten here and he can't respond. The Swiss has gone. Christoph Sauser has just taken off into the woodland, and he might well be out of sight because there's so many twists and turns before you know it. Meanwhile, back on this sinuous course, not much room for overtaking. A little bit of a beep as well from the security bike that's also filming. Oh, and a skid at the back wheel as well, and Leon Pace knows perhaps it's not going to be runner-up spot. He doesn't have the same confidence or balance, it seems, as Christoph Sauser, the Swiss, who's just gone away from him. What a dramatic finish to the men's race. Meanwhile, out in front, he's about a minute and a half away from the line as the rain spots just start to suggest themselves to us here. Oh, and still dust being kicked up, but I'm afraid it's all about this man for that pair. Minor places for them. It looks like Christoph Sauster is going to take second place, but look at the speed. He's not hanging back at all. Oh, hangs a leg. That's the Colombian Leonardo Pace. He's not happy at all. Meanwhile, out front, still the drive goes on from Christoph Saucer, and he can't keep up. Oh my goodness, this is heartbreaking stuff for Leonardo Pace. He thought he might be runner-up. It's going to be a podium, a bronze medal for him. It's going to be gold, though, for Alban Lacata, you can be sure. And there's that counterbalance, wrestling with the brakes and the machine, trying to get it round the corner and keep it sensible. And he does so, but at a cost. Look at the gap. Little bit of an uneven surface, one of the back markers just ahead of him, and the encouragement from the youngsters as well, which make up a great part. There is a kids race here, don't forget, so you really can play at all levels. Screaming out the excuse me as he comes into town right now. Alban Lacata wants this to be an impressive one, and just drifting to one side, just taking a little bit of the dirt to let him go through. That was Goran Tečak of Croatia, but into town he comes. He is on a mission, and he has completed it. A man who has delivered. Alban Lacata of Austria is our world champion. Oh, and he knows it. Grabs a flag, the confetti will go off, and he just can't believe it. He almost stifles a roar, then punches the air, takes the ribbon, and indeed is crowned world champion. Lets the bike go, falls to earth, kisses the ground, and said, this terrain belongs to me, at least for today. Alban Lacata is our world champion. Well, the press out in force. They'll get the pictures they want. Christoph Saucer, what a great mugging it was, I'm afraid, of Leonardo Pace. 3 times a winner at the Hero, but Pace is going to head for 3rd place because Saucer has just extended the gap. Well, as our winner is just about to have a chat to Barbara down at the reception zone, the camera's just hooked back. They're picking out Leonardo Pace, but Christoph Saucer, I think, has been missed here. Saucer is going to come across the line before Pace, and there he is, just dropping out of shot right now. He's heading for the line. They're waiting for Pace, erroneously, I think, believing that Saucer is a back marker. But Christoph Saucer is going to take the runners-up spot, and I'm afraid Leonardo Pace, 3 times a winner of the Hero, which you might have expected to come through for glory, is going to lose out to the man who took bronze in Sydney. Christoph Saucer will be our runner-up here, twice a world champion, and in fact bowing out of his professional career with this very race. Camera stays with Pace as Saucer heads for the line. We'll wait for Pace to come through. That's one of our lady competitors that's still out on course. And poor old Leonardo Pace. They know him here, so no surprise to see him being traced. But there is the man who's going to get runners-up spot, Christoph Saucer. Here's our world champion. Well, very briefly, didn't hear what he had to say, unfortunately, but we've still got a race going on, and this is what it's all about. Runners-up spot, some disappointment there, I guess you might say, for Christoph Saucer, but he waves to the crowd and says, thank you very much. I'll take runners-up, more than 3rd place. He bided his time, did he not? And got the beating of Leonardo Pace, who comes across the line right now. Well, it'll be a couple of minutes before we get our decider for the top 5, because there's 3 riders involved. Marcus Kaufmann, along with Perklis, Ilias and Damiano Ferraro. But what an event we have, and what worthy world champions as well. Alban Lacata with a broad smile, the Austrian. The Swiss Christoph Saucer, no bitterness at all. And Leonardo Pace will make up a podium of smiling faces. They know they've had a real test here, and they most certainly have. There's nowhere better to ride a mountain bike than the Selva Val Gardena. Head for the Dolomites in Italy if you want to have some fun. And indeed, if you want the ultimate test, then sign up and be a hero yourself. Celebrate the hero. Well, what an amazing festival this is. The Sellaronda has delivered once again. The hero, well, the heroes are on display, and the Mountain Bike World Championship has finally crowned its heroes again with rainbow jerseys, this time by well, Pericles Ilias of Greece came home for 4th place. This is Damiano Ferraro coming to the line. A top 5 for him. Checks over his shoulder because not that far behind is Markus Kaufmann of TB Neufen team under Germany. Good wrestle between those guys for that top 5 spot. And in fact, Pericles Ilias of Greece, 4th home in this World Championship event, and Damiano Ferraro making out the top 5. Here's your finishing order then. Kaufmann in 6th place ahead of Sami Porro. Tony Pauluysen of Belgium, twice a world champion, down in 8th place. It was the Swiss Lukas Beckley that came home in 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Christian Henyek. Well, the sky's starting to clear. Confirmation of the ladies' result. They finished in sunshine. It is Gun Rita Dahler that is our world champion, finishing ahead of Langvad and Spitz. We have Ariane Clements and Sally Bingham rounding out your top 5. What an event. It's every year the Sellaronda hero. This time it happened to be the World Championships. We've had some fabulous racing. I'm Carlton Kirby. Very pleased to have your company on such a magnificent World Championships, and congratulations to both men and women.